this as well here. So I'm Rachel Britton. I am doing a 21-day series on holiday hopes and dreams. What we know is that this season is a very different one this year, with the pandemic going on and just a lot of changes for a lot of people. And I reached out to my sister. I know you guys can't tell that we're sisters. You might not see it physically, but once we start talking, you'll hear how much we sound alike, and our laugh is the same, which is all okay because if I had to match somebody, it would be my sister. So, but I reached out to her because she is a mama of 4 kids, 4 boys. She's a boy mom, and 2 of them are adopted, 2 of them are biological, and then she has had the honor of being in a lot of other children's lives as a foster mom. And I have had the honor of being a part of their lives as well. That is one thing that has been really amazing, to be a part of that journey and watching my sister be a part of all those kids' lives, but also being able to be a part of their lives as well. So her and I have talked a lot about emotions and what all of the emotions that the boys go through and that she goes through as the mom of adopted children and foster children, and just her biological children as well, and how they're adapting to all the changes too. And so I thought she'd be a great person to bring on and share what she has to say about how to cope. So here's Mara.
Oh goodness. All right. And Rachel, you can kind of lead me in with some questions or whichever, but yeah, so I am a mom of 4 kids, 2 adopted, 1 internationally, and 1 through foster care. So talking about emotions, we have lots of big emotions in my household. A lot of times, especially around the holidays, it's really hard for my kiddos because holidays especially tends to bring out those big emotions for them. And a lot of them, I don't necessarily know what those emotions are going to be, or when they will come out, or why. They don't exactly even know why they're having those big emotions, but definitely it's usually connected to the holidays and knowing that they have other families that they're missing far away, and just, a lot of curiosity of what holidays would have been like had they still been with their biological families. And it's also a time of big emotions for my biological children. And I'm also a teacher, and so I see all of my students too. Just a lot more heightened emotions. Moms and dads are stressed. We're, especially this time of year, or this year with the pandemic and everything. But, we're all worried about how much to spend, when gatherings will be, how much you do every holiday, if we're following traditions, not following traditions. And I think the kids feel that, and they start feeling that stress as well. So it's just a time of year where always trying to stay away from the big emotions as much as possible. Curb those when I can, but it can be tricky.
So when you say curb them, like, what do you mean by that? How do you curb emotions?
So I have found the best thing for my kids is really stick with as much, what word am I looking for right now?
Routine, structure?
Routine, thank you. Woo! Routine and structure as possible, even in the holidays, and sticking with bedtimes, even though it's a holiday and they want to stay up late, trying to stick with bedtimes. Lots of treats starting to come by, but regulating some of those, making sure we're not overeating treats, not all of a sudden, just because we're traveling, getting to drink a bunch of pop all of a sudden. Just trying to keep those routines in place, going to bed same time, waking up the same time, sticking to our rules with electronics, not letting them have extras. That's not always perfect, of course, on the holidays. They tend to still get extras, but sticking as close to possible with routine as possible. And then another way we curb is to kind of let them know what's coming. So if we know this year there won't be as many gatherings, but if we know that there's a gathering coming, and kind of letting them know what that day will look like. So whose house will it be? Will we go anywhere else during that time? What kind of foods we might be eating? What their expectations are. Like, are they going to have to sit still while we all do something specific? Or will they get to kind of be on their own time? Yeah, so lots of routine and lots of preemptive thought. And then the other way to curb is just to make sure that they're surrounded by things that are calming, or help them settle. So, for instance, like I really try to make sure that like art supplies are um, seen by my kids. They really like crafting or sitting down and coloring. So kind of like setting those out for them here and there. Um, and just to kind of like get their minds to think about it more, or doing, maybe not baking from the beginning to the end, because that's too much time for them to wait, but having the cookies baked and ready to go so we can set up the frosting and all they do is frost. Something that they'll enjoy, that's not going to be too overwhelming. And so they can enjoy the holiday, but it's just not too much.
Mhm. Yes, I like that idea. And I mean, obviously, we family gatherings together and whatnot. And I know that that's been a big thing of like trying not to make things too long. If we're going to do something, we make sure it's like the part that they really enjoy
Yeah.
and trying to keep them as interested and involved as possible. But I mean, there's always a time that one of them doesn't want to do it, or that it's just not going to work. And so yesterday I talked a lot about like expectations, and sometimes it's just learning to not expect like a kid to be perfect or to sit down in that moment. And like how can we as parents find a way to have expectations and like set boundaries, but also be flexible? Because I talked a lot about that yesterday, but I think as parents, it's extra hard because we have in our mind exactly what we want our kids to do. And usually they
Yeah.
don't.
Well, and I feel like it's not even so much, at least for me, I'll have my own expectations for sure. But I think where my holdup is, where the anxiety rises, is that I get worried about what everyone else's expectations are around me. So it's one thing for us to do our holidays with just within my home, but when I'm with family, or we're with friends in the holidays, my mind's racing like, oh shoot, what's their expectation for this holiday and this gathering? And then that's what gives me the stress and the anxiety of making sure everyone feels happy with those expectations. And so, but allowing my kids to still feel comfortable and have the emotions they need, because especially my sons who have been adopted, they can be triggered by the smallest things that I don't understand, and those big emotions will come out. So to be flexible and be able to let them have that space of what they need. So like when we are in family gatherings, trying to be better about things like not springing it on them right all of a sudden, like dinner is now, or we're playing this game now, but really setting that up, giving them that transition time of, all right, hey guys, in 15 minutes we're going to be doing this game, can you help me get it ready? Or also letting them have it in their ballpark, because I do have one son, Rachel, I'm sure you'll figure out which one this is, but if I say we're going to be doing something and then he has to wait then 30 minutes because we weren't ready to go, then he's excited to do it, and all of a sudden it's not ready to go and he flips a lid, like that's too much for him. So I have to remember that as a mom, because I know my kids, to like not tell him too soon if things aren't ready, or to give him choices. So like, hey, we really want to do this game in 15 minutes. So it's going to be 15 minutes still though. So you have these two options. Do you want to come help us set it up during that time? Or would you like to play this video game with your brother in those 15 minutes? Giving him options so he feels in control during those 15 minutes of wait time is really key for our success in less blow-ups during the holidays.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that idea of giving options and like just keeping that in mind that kids have a hard time waiting, and that like 15 minutes for us as adults feels like an hour for them when they're really excited to do it in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like giving them as much control as possible throughout the day has been really, when I can remember to do that, and not putting them on my time and our adult time frames, I feel like I have more success on those holidays or any occasions. Just giving them as many choices as they can so they feel like they're in control of that day and it's not all just being thrown at them all day long.
Right. Well, and I think that you and I have talked a lot about like different trainings that you've gone to and different ways to think about that idea of control. And I think a big thing that I hear a lot, you know, from a lot of different venues, not just at work, is people saying like, well, I'm the adult, I'm in control. Like it's my job, you know, like whatever I say is what they have to follow. But like, I think there's a lot of ways for us be in control as we're providing them control as well. And it's like that simple act of giving them the choice. Like we're still in control of those two choices, but they get to control that one choice of that they pick out. And so I like that you talked about that, because I think as adults we can, or as parents or anything, we can really get stuck in the, well, it's my, like I'm in control though.
Right. And there doesn't have to be a win-lose. Like you make those choices for them. That's a win-win. So
Mhm.
either choice is going to be something that's a win for us and as an adult, but they feel like they've got some kind of control and say in what their body is doing that day and how they can control themselves. Before I forget too, I think I'm learning more and more about calming spaces, and I've always known about them, but they've really come in play lately for our kids. And like they're realizing they're getting old enough that they're realizing that's what they need and want. And so they'll start going to it on their own. And so like in our house, one of my sons, I walked in his room the other day and all of the things from his closet were on his floor. So that was not exciting. Because they're pretty much still all there because I have to figure out what to do with them now. But all of a sudden he's like, I have a calming space, Mom. And he had put a pillow in his closet and like a little nightlight that you like click on and some books. And that's where he's been going anytime he's getting mad. He's been going into his closet and he like shuts the door and turns on his light. And we're having so much more success because he can calm down much faster when he chooses to go to that spot. Now, I can't tell him, go to your closet. That wouldn't make him calm down.
Right.
But when he chooses to do that, or if I say, do you just need a calm spot? He's been going there and it's been working really well. And it's been a good reminder for me too, at holidays, especially if you're at someone's house, usually there's somewhere a kid can go that's a calming spot.
Good
And
idea.
so with your child, when you get to that location saying, hey, if things are feeling overwhelming or you're really frustrated at me or dad or your brother, Oma and Opa said that you could go in their bedroom and you can go sit in there for a while. I threw some art crayons in there and you can go color in there at any time today if you're getting frustrated. And so I feel like I don't remember to do that very often, but I have a couple times, and those times are successful. And usually they don't need it because just the idea of knowing that that's there and they know where they could go helps them stay a little calmer. So it's one of those things I need to remember to do more often. But really easy to do when you're at family, especially, and the rooms are more open to you. A little harder to do in a public space, of course, but for a family gathering or a good friend, that's a really beneficial thing to say at the very beginning of the gathering, so they know what to do if they want to go calm down from the big emotions.
Well, and what a great way for like individuals on here that don't have kids, but that have families or friends that come over that know that their kiddos can have big emotions sometimes, and just even like being an open house of like, hey, emotions are totally okay in this house, and what room would you like me to open up for you to like have your calm place? Like, I love that idea of just even, you know, like when you guys come to our house of being like, hey, we designated this room as the calm room. Anytime someone needs to go there, it's available.
Yeah.
Or if you don't want to make it a big deal, just letting the parent know like, hey, I know sometimes that this kiddo needs a calm place. This place is available.
Yeah.
That can be a really
Totally.
nice.
Yep.
Are there,
Sorry.
that's right. It's funny talking about it because like we have all of our ins and outs of like our own family dynamics, but I think that
Yeah.
that is something that is really important to just establish. And I know that they do that at my daughter's daycare, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a really big thing for her.
A lot of kids will know if you've never broached the subject in your household. A lot of kids will know what a calming corner is. Most schools are utilizing them now in classrooms, or the school counselor has talked about calming areas. So kids, this isn't new to most kids. A lot of schools are talking about them now and utilizing them. So my guess is if it's never been new, or you've never said it to your kid, they'll probably have some kind of idea what you're talking about when you bring it up.
Mm-hmm. So what are the red flags? Like, what are some things that, and I know every kid is different, so your red flags might be different from the next family's, but what are some things that like you've noticed, or that over time, like you never realized it was a red flag, but now that you know, you're like, man, I wish someone would have told me that was a red flag.
Yeah, we've got a few red flags.
I mean,
And
I
some
could
of those
probably label some of them.
yeah, right. Yeah, you could. Some of those red flags, it's tricky because some of them go so fast, and then you're like, oh shoot, we're there. And some of them are so subtle, I have to really look for them. But even like one, just like at school, if things are overwhelming, more of the fidgeting starts happening with the body. Sometimes it can be quietness. Like my child, that's usually like blah, 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 blah. And then or joking around, and instead is very like somber and kind of closed mouth. Then I know the wheels are turning, and usually that means there's some big emotions happening. Anger is definitely what, if all of a sudden they're kind of getting angry about something. Oftentimes in my house, that means they're getting hungry and we've waited too long for a meal. So either get them a snack right away, or get them to that table and give them supper early.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving supper doesn't have to start with the whole family at the same time. Like if they eat a roll before supper starts, life will go on. Once again, for me, that's hard because I know others' expectations as adults, that's not the same. But now in my life, so be it. Like if they need that roll before supper starts, they need the roll because I want them to be able to enjoy supper. And if I say, nope, hard nose, nope, 10 minutes more, then they just won't be at supper. They'll lose their temper and they'll be gone. Like I'll have lost them completely until they can calm down.
And really it's worse like in the long run, because that idea of like, oh, I want them to sit with the family. Well, they're not sitting with the family.
Right.
And I'm not like, just in general.
Gone.
Right.
Yeah. They're just completely gone. Their lid has flipped. Their frontal cortex, or everything is just gone. Then it takes so much longer for them to calm down to where they need to be so that they can join our family, which is a bummer. So yeah, fidgeting, seeing that temper kind of rise or getting really quiet, but also sometimes it's a little bit of everything, but like one of my children almost seems manic, like too hyperactive, like a kind of this like weird, silly, where you're just like, something like, this isn't you just joking. This is you, like, you're not quite making sense of your silliness. And that's usually his way of saying, like, I don't feel in control right now. And I either need food, or I need water, or I need to take a break, or I need someone to just come give me physical touch and talk to me one-on-one type, like giving that attention. So those are how it kind of shows in some of my kids. And even like my oldest, my biological son, like, he starts getting cranky, like, as you know, when he's hungry, or when but like all kids get dysregulated.
Right.
So, he starts getting kind of sour and just like, well, da 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 da. That's usually his sign that he's overwhelmed, or ready to move on to the next thing, or starting to get frustrated as well.
Well, and I sit here and laugh because as you're talking about your kids, I'm like, my kids, so, like everything that you're saying is just going through my head, and like, yep. Last night it was just like 5 minutes too late to going to bed. And I got so many emotions, and like, but like, I feel like this is every single parent is like,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yep.
And like, my biological children, like, same issues across the board, especially at different age levels. We know we're always going to deal with all of these things. It's just that my two boys that happen to be adopted have even bigger emotions. So like, and it's harder for them to calm down after those emotions. Unlike my oldest, who I can talk through it pretty quick and we can get back on track. My other two, it's a much longer process for them to get back on track and to get us where we need to be. So for me, I feel like I need to be more vigilant of sidetracking or curbing those emotions before they happen, so that we can all have a not that we need a perfect day, but so that they can enjoy their day. This isn't, for me, this is about them. Like, I want them to enjoy their day. And they can't if they're frustrated and upset. And that's not fair to them. So, yeah.
I know you talked a little bit about like for them, or for your adopted kiddos, like all those other thoughts that they might be having about their biological families and whatnot. And I know you do a lot to like honor their heritages, honor like their biological families. Can you give any hints or tips of like how you can provide that safe environment to talk about it and be able to have that conversation and honor their biological families, if and how as a parent you can feel comfortable with that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, and some days I wish I did way more of it than I do. And but like for us, we keep pictures out. We've got picture books. At any time, if our kids want to talk about it, I try to really stop and focus on them. It's not like a passing, like, oh yeah, da, da, da. Like, you take the time to really stop and discuss. For my son, who was born in the Philippines, we, like, at Christmas time is a really great time because they've got a lot of Christmas traditions with a star that's called a parole. And so we're able to get those out and decorate our tree and talk about the traditions at Christmas time. That's a really easy way to talk about that with him. With our other son, he's still in contact with his family. So especially at holidays, I really try to make sure somewhere around that holiday that he gets to call his siblings, so that he can have that connection with them at the holidays. And we try to buy presents to send to his siblings. So just so he keeps that connection as well. But keeping out pictures, trying to remember to say, or like if I know they have a memory that's specific. For instance, our one son has memories of snakes. Usually if he sees a snake, he'll bring up his old memory of the snake. But if he doesn't, like, I'll bring up that memory, because to him that's a really that's some of his only memories of that time is this snake story he remembers. I hate the story, but I bring it up.
I haven't heard that story. You'll have to tell me later.
Oh, you ask him about snakes, he'll tell you all about snakes in the Philippines. Yeah. So anyway, just making sure that that stays alive, that part of them is alive. And for both of my kids, they were really young, so they don't have a lot of memories. But what they do or what they do understand, just trying to harness. And then knowing too, as their parent, that their emotions and understanding of adoption and their loss um, through that is going to change as they get older. So I already see that with our older son, how his understanding is lately changing, which is part good because he has a better understanding, and part harder because he has an understanding of that
Mhm.
loss. So he has an understanding of the gain and the loss. And then he has to struggle with that emotion at the age level he's at. So I know every couple years we'll kind of go through that again. So just trying to keep that conversation going at all times so that we're all of a sudden don't talk about it. And then we've got these big emotions we don't know how to talk about.
Right. Well, and I know that you've done a lot of work for yourself to manage like how it feels for you as mom, and being able to like have those conversations. And I know like other individuals that I work with, they've had to work really hard on not taking those conversations personally as they're not doing enough, and that's just a very natural thing for a kid to want to know more about their heritage or their
Oh,
biological
totally.
family and all of that. Are there any good resources that you have for individuals? I know you have like a lot of websites, or maybe it's just that you can put them on here later. Any resources on the top of your head?
Yeah, my favorite by far is Connected Parenting through Karen Purvis. And there's groups out there for that. There's a podcast, the Connected Parent Podcast. That's three hosts that use connected parenting, and they talk about it. Yeah, I've learned so many valuable tools. And then they have a conference every year called the Empower to Connect conference. Um, I've learned so many tools through them, and I'm a work in progress. Just the other day, I was like, "Oh man, I need to get back and review all my stuff," because I do right now kind of feel there's so much going on that I feel like we're kind of going back into my old habits of traditional parenting and saying, "Get this done," but understanding we kind of have to work through things differently sometimes with them. Um, but yeah, those are some amazing resources all over. Um, and then just utilizing the resources within your state and your county. DHS's Departments of Health Services, they always have awesome resources. A lot of times you can borrow, like a lot of times they'll have videos and books like within their library you can borrow. Also state agencies, adoption agencies, they also tend to have a lot of videos and books, and they're more than welcome usually to let people borrow things. And if you have like a specific problem or issue, they usually have people on staff too that you can talk to. Like we have a post, like through the agencies we've worked through a couple different agencies, and both times we've had a post adoption worker that reaches out to us, and we get the card. And once the year passes, we don't hear from her, but I know at any time I could call her and say, "Hey, we're struggling with this. Can you send some resources my way?" Or is there someone I can talk to? So utilizing those is awesome.
Mhm. Great. Thanks for sharing those.
Mhm.
I know we're at a half hour, so I don't want to keep you too long. I know you have to go back to work, but I do appreciate you jumping on. I know that it's easy, or not easy. It helps to learn these things for yourself, but I also know that you need a community around you to support you. And I think every parent is that way, whether you have biological, foster, adoptive children, and
Yeah.
sometimes it can be helpful just for others outside of just the parent using those resources and learning more about like the connected parenting. I know you've sent me those resources as well, and they're helpful. I mean,
Yeah.
it's nice to know what's going on so that you can help your loved one out when they want to just spend an hour with their kiddo that's having the big emotions. You can watch the other kids, or like you help the family out by taking that kiddo and treating them to something special, or just knowing like at a holiday why the kid is reacting the way that they're reacting, and letting that parent know like it's okay, that we're not judging you, that you have to figure that, like you get to
Yeah.
figure out with your
Yeah. The
kid.
big
And
emotions doesn't mean they're naughty kids.
no,
It's
it
just,
doesn't.
it's an emotion. And I think
Mhm.
as a society, unfortunately, for years, we were told big emotions means you're a naughty kid. And so I feel like as a society, we just really need to start breaking that idea, because it's not true. And letting those kids have those emotions, letting those kids help them figure it out, because we have emotions too. And
Right.
some of us are better than others at handling those emotions.
And it depends on the day.
Right? And it's the same with our kids. Like,
Right.
one day my kids can handle those emotions like champs, and the next day they fall apart. It's the same. So we have to help them get through that. That's our job and our responsibility, whether we are the mom, the aunt, the grandpa, the brother. Like, it's all our responsibility to help those kids understand what the emotion is, why they're having it, and let them feel that emotion, and then help them move on to the next step so they can enjoy whatever they were doing.
Right. And if anyone ever like wants to learn more, talk to the person that like I talk to Mara about this a lot, and she schools me all the time in parenting. And both of us can recognize that neither one of us are the best parent, and that we both have very different approaches. And yet, like, we've both learned from each other. Well, I hope you've learned from me and I've learned from you. But I think it's okay to have like an open conversation about like why you do certain things, and to
Yeah.
try really hard not to judge what the other person is doing, because they know their child the best.
Right.
And sometimes just taking a step back and changing what your parenting style is and getting some feedback actually helps you with your own children. So
Right.
I've
Yeah.
told Mara that she schooled me many times because there's things that I said when I didn't have a kid yet, and I'm biting my tongue now. I get it. I'm not perfect.
True story.
I know I've said things that people are like, Rachel, wait until you have kids. And it's true. And I'll own it. But I think it's okay to work as as a team and to learn more. And we can all learn from in different ways, not getting stuck on our own parenting style. So, but
Definitely.
I think it's okay to have those conversations and to be open with it. So I appreciate you jumping on.
Yep.
I'll let you get back to work.
I'll do
Um,
that.
yes, and thanks everyone. Drop any questions you have for us below. Mara can put some of the
Yep.
resources underneath when she has a free moment later today. But I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving. See you later,
Bye.
Mara. Bye.